Welcome back to Faces of Truth, where we attempt to help Americans think for themselves again, and in the process, spread truth to the minds of humanity. My name is Alexander McCauley. During the next few minutes, we're going to be covering the settlement of North America by the British. I hope you enjoy. In order to appreciate the historical settling of the making of setting of the making of America, we need to review some of the little known or forgotten events that led to the discovery and development of the Western Hemisphere. The Founding Fathers would probably consider this one of the most important parts of our study, because it covers the tempestuous historical period that gave birth to our American heritage. In their simplest forms, there are two basic types of law found in society: Roman civil law, which we will call ruler's law, in which all of the laws come from the ruler, and English common law, which we will call people's law, in which all the laws come by consent of the people. The French had no form of representative government, but ran their affairs under a type of ruler's law, very much like the Spanish system. Nevertheless, they created an impasse with the Spanish, which allowed the English to settle nearly 3 million colonists on the Atlantic seaboard by 1776, and introduce the fundamentals for a representative form of government, which we call people's law. As early colonists came to America, they brought a great gift from England. The English were just about the only Europeans who fought to preserve the basic institutes of the Anglo-Saxon culture under people's law. Hengist and Horsa, two Saxon chiefs, introduced these principles in Britain in AD 450. Unfortunately, after 600 years under people's law, the people of England nearly lost their freedom entirely. The conquest of Britain in 1066 by the Normans brought elements of feudal law, Roman civil law, and canon law to England. All of these included elements of ruler's law, which corrupted the Anglo-Saxon system. Thomas Jefferson described the Normans introduced feudalism and rulers' law in England. Our Saxon ancestors held their lands as they did their personal property in absolute dominion, who by persuasion or threat were induced to surrender them for a purpose. A general principle was introduced that all lands in England were held by the crown. By 1215, the oppressive principles of policies of the Normans had become intolerable even to those who had supported the Normans. Therefore, the English barons rebelled against King John and compelled him to sign the famous Magna Carta, in which they itemized their rights. The barons, church leaders, knights, and burgesses finally gained enough influence to require the king to let them represent the people in a primitive English parliament. There they were able to force the king to recognize many of their basic rights and gradually limit his power. Parliament was actually an expansion of the King's Council and first appeared as Parliamentary Forum in 1264. Early in the 1600s, Edward Coke, an English judge, found himself doing things to Englishmen that violated their traditional rights. He repented and launched a campaign to revive interest in specific rights set forth in the Magna Carta, which he said not only belonged to barons, knights, and burgesses, but to all people. By 1628, the abuses of King Charles I were so harsh that the Parliament forced him to sign the famous document called the Petition of Rights. Later, however, he ignored his commitments, and Parliament seized power and turned control of the government over to Oliver Cromwell. Charles I was convicted of treason and beheaded. In 1660, Parliament put Charles II on the throne, and after he died in 1685, his brother was allowed to ascend the throne as James II. However, James II was so ruthless that Parliament dethroned him in 1688, and in what was called the Glorious Revolution. Parliament then entered into an agreement with his daughter and her husband, William and Mary, to take over the throne, provided they would sign the English Bill of Rights. This document was signed in 1689. All of these hard-won rights of the English became part of American heritage. Americans owe a great debt of gratitude to the tens of thousands of Englishmen who were imprisoned, hanged, beheaded, tortured, burned at the stake, and or forced into exile as they tried to reestablish these inalienable rights, which many Americans in our day take for granted. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, follow on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us at Muck Alternatives Media. Comment. Make sure your comments are clean because, well, the discussion has to be had. And make sure to share because no one learns this stuff anymore. And if they do, I took a American Foundations class that was almost entirely a sales pitch on socialism and critical race theory. We're not going to do that. We're not going to beat around the bush and pander to the woke crowd. We're going to share what actually happened. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Faces of Truth, where we attempt to help Americans think for themselves again, and in the process, bring truth to the minds of humanity. My name's Alexander McCauley. Stay free, and we'll see you next time.